to order. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Bellinger? Here. Trustee Bukowski? Here. Trustee Colley?
Here.
Trustee Guerrero? Here. Trustee Meissen?
Here.
Trustee Popoli? Here. President Pridemore?
Here.
Treasurer Stein? Here. And Clerk Winsett is
Okay, approval of the agenda. I would like to add one item under new business, J. It will be the fire department graphics for the new fire apparatus. Are there any other additions? Motion is in order. So moved.
support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comments on the agenda. Public comments on the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Approval of the minutes, council meeting minutes for February 8th, 2022.
I have one amendment to the minutes under unfinished business, planning rezoning recommendation, item number 2. My vote was a no.
Okay. What item number was that again? What was the item number on that?
Unfinished business, D, item number 2.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes as amended. Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda.
Make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Payment of bills, the treasurer's report.
For the month of February 2022, payroll was $65,422.39. Bills to be paid for March, $810,374.85, for a total of $875,797.24. The village assets total $6,359,037.58.
Make a motion that we approve the payment of the.
I've got a point on this. So I'm having trouble finding the payroll number to match in the bills. So I went through the on the packets. If you look at the latest packet and you open up the payroll, comes out to $38,883. So I'm just wondering if there's a document missing in the packet and it is $65,422.
So if you add the total gross on that paper, the 53,935.27, and then the total expense and then the total taxes, that's where that number comes from.
But we probably just need to refine this document to pull that out, or at least see that in it, because it doesn't match the packet. So, I mean, I'm not going to do the math real quick, but
But also, if you look at the one labeled consent agenda, the payroll, the $53,935.27.
well, that's just an Excel file. This, I'm assuming, is a report from the system, right?
From the SNA, yes.
Right. So, I'd rather be able to see the numbers on here.
Oh, what do you mean? You don't see the numbers on there?
No. Well, I mean, I can do the math. If you
Oh.
said if the 53 plus, you said what, the 4, no,
These two is because the village also pays taxes and insurance here.
Is it
So
wages
this
plus
plus this
expenses
plus
plus
this.
total gross, total expenses, and total taxes.
Oh, you got it. Thank you. So I don't know if there's a way to put that in the bottom of this. Probably not. I'm assuming as it's a
It's a
canned
credit
report.
report would be a
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I'll just remember for the future. Thank you. Sorry.
Make a
Any other
motion that
questions? Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the payment of the bills in the amount of $875,797.24.
So moved. Or support, I'm sorry.
Roll call?
Trustee Bison?
Yes.
Trustee Benkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Colley?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
President Craig?
Yes.
Make a motion that we file and receive and file the treasurer's report.
Second.
Roll call. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Did you put your hand up, Mr. Dillon? Did you put your
No, I
hand
was checking my glasses.
up?
I'm sorry.
That's okay, I'm paying attention, that's okay, that's fine. Okay,
Nice to see you.
Communications Committee reports, clerk?
The agenda items for April 12th are due April 1st, 2022.
Planning Commission report, Trustee Bachowski.
The Planning Commission met last Tuesday. We are trying to finalize the master plan. That's been tabled momentarily. We also tabled some zoning changes. We had some discussion about the sign ordinance. I did send, this was probably more a request about non-compliant business signs, and she is working on that for us. That's where we're at.
And the Parks and Rec report.
Yes, I think last council meeting, the Easter egg roll is Saturday, April 16th, so I had that date. And then we're also working on more trips to be scheduled. We have an April 23rd Science Center trip, a May 27th Tigers trip. The bands are being lined up for the music in the park. And then we're also thinking about hosting a meet and greet at the community park, just for some ideas from residents to share what they want to see happen for Parks and Rec and things of that nature.
Great.
There's a lot of good things happening.
Great. And a new business. We have the MCMCA Lifetime Achievement Award. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Debbie Condino, and I am the Executive Director of the Macomb County Medical Control Authority. And nobody really understands exactly what that means. We oversee all of our EMS services here in the county. And I appreciate being invited to the meeting this evening because I'm actually here to honor our EMS providers across Macomb County. So I am making trips to all of the different municipalities to recognize our EMS providers. One of the things that we do at the Medical Control Authority, we oversee services and make sure that providers are following protocols and all of that. We're kind of a regulatory body. But one of the great things that we get to do is we have a recognition program. And we honor people monthly, honestly, for different things that we hear about that are happening in the community and in the field. But we also have established a Lifetime Achievement Award. And every year we honor usually one provider who stands out among the rest, who's contributed to the EMS profession and who has specifically contributed in Macomb County. But this past year, my medical director and I, we decided that there is so much going on and so many non-traditional things happening in healthcare just related to the pandemic that we wanted to do something special for all of our providers across the county. We have approximately 1,800 across Macomb County, and we are here to honor all of our EMS providers receiving our Lifetime Achievement Award. So that's why I'm here this evening, to recognize the team here in New Haven, and we thank you, thank them for all that they do every day. You know, they've sacrificed a lot in the last year and a half or so Not only have they put their own safety and health in jeopardy and their families, they have just done so many non-traditional things outside of just taking care of your citizens at their most vulnerable time. And so we wanted to do something special, so I'm here to honor them this evening, and I just want to congratulate them for a job well done. I think we have, 4 or 5 providers here this evening. Thank you so very much. I want to read what the certificate says. And by the way, this is a certificate that we want you to hang in your lobby somewhere, and included is a challenge coin. And in our industry, when someone receives a challenge coin, they do something above and beyond their work. And so it has a challenge coin here on the certificate. And basically it says, Macomb County EMS Medical Control Authority 2021 Lifetime Achievement Award recognizing our EMS heroes. In 2021, the extreme physical and emotional pressures EMS providers created by the global pandemic continued. Despite these extremely difficult circumstances, our EMS providers have continued to serve our communities with dedication, professionalism, and compassion. Their spirit of collaboration and continued service excellence in these austere conditions must be recognized. So on behalf of the EMS Medical Control Authority, we bestow on all EMS providers in our system the honor of the 2021 EMS Provider of the Year.
Come on.
Don't you have a vote?
Money back there too? Squeeze up.
Mark's back there. Mark's back there. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do. Thank you very much.
Okay, next on our agenda is the presentation from Lombardo, Clark Street property.
Hello. I am, oh man, let's see if this thing works for me here. It didn't work. Okay.
Here, I can do it.
All right.
You tell me when.
All right, great. Here. Sorry about this. So, my name's Cosmo Lombardo. I'm here to discuss our offer, our latest offer on the Clark Street property, previously Amherst Phases 5 and 6, that the village currently owns. So just for my agenda tonight, I want to just kind of talk about our history in the village of New Haven, then tell me a story. See that on there? I think you guys have probably worked with my father over the years. You might have walked into his office and he said, "Tell me a story." That's something that we learned from a planner that worked in Macomb County for a long time. His name was Glenn Wynn, and I'll get into that more when we get to that point. Basically, just to tell you why we're here and why our offer is what it is. Then just go over why the number we had is, to address it, it's significantly less than our original offer, and I want to go over the reasons for that and the actual numbers that we reviewed with President Pridemore a few weeks ago to get to this point. And then have discussion and action on the actual purchase agreement. After that, something else we had discussed with President Pridemore was a potential partnership with the schools with a construction internship program. We're doing that right now with the city of Westland, or working through it, and it's something that we're passionate about and like to do. So, Greg, if you go to the next. So like I said, I'm Cosmo Lombardo. I manage our land acquisition. That's Greg. You guys know him very well, Greg Windingland. He's our special projects manager. He'd like to retire, but we're never going to let him. So, he's still here. Greg, you go to the next slide. So first, you guys know we're in Decorah Park and Decorah Park North. Currently, Decorah Park is sold out, and we're actively selling and have a sales center in Decorah Park North, which is closer to sold out now. We also are in Pembroke and Pembroke South. The original Pembroke is sold out. It looks like Greg just picked up the water and sewer permits for Pembroke South as well. There's an additional 63 home sites that we will likely, if we have water and sewer permits, be developing in the coming months and selling out those home sites. Amherst and Amherst Village, we have 18 home sites to sell in there remaining. One, which you were talking about earlier, that doesn't fit one of our products, so we'll figure out what to do with that one. And then if we do end up making a deal, there'll be an additional 55 home sites that we'll develop in that community as well. We call them the Gratiot lots. It's just a piece that originally was zoned general business that we had purchased. We rezoned it, and we have 3 lots off of Clausen Street. One, I think it's office service parcel there. Those haven't sold yet, but something that we have that we could sell. Then we have the property at the southeast corner of 27 and Gratiot. That's zoned general business. We don't really know what our plans are with it yet, but that's just another piece that we'll end up doing something with eventually. So tell me a story. Something that my father always says that we learned is just to tell people the story. Why are we here? So originally we entered into a contract with the Village of New Haven to purchase the Amherst Phases 5 and 6 property for $350,000. I think that was in November of 2021. During our due diligence period, we found a few things. One, that the wetlands on the property had grown exponentially from what was on the original PUD plan. And that's pretty common in properties when you don't mow them, when you don't farm them. Wetlands do grow. We make sure all our properties that we hold, we make sure they're farmed, make sure they're mowed, we look at that stuff. Communities, like, when a community owns it, that isn't typical, right? They don't do those types of things. But the wetlands did grow for that reason, and also I think there were some borrow pits from the original development that ended up creating wetlands. So in general, the wetlands had increased exponentially, and that resulted in a loss of 47 home sites from our original plan. And then also, like everyone's been hearing about, there's material supplies, material shortages, there's labor shortages. Lumber cost a lot of money, and siding and everything, and basically construction costs had risen to the point where the value in the lots, based on what it cost us to develop the home site, build the home, and then what we can actually sell it for, what's left there became much less. So we terminated our purchase agreement for that reason on December 2nd of 2021. Shortly after the new year, Matthew Vale, the broker who has this listed, reached out to me and said, hey, we've gone through this with a couple other guys, and they kind of came to the same conclusion you. What would you really pay for this? So we went back, we just looked at our numbers. We run something called a job profit projection. We basically put all that, what we just talked about, together. And what we did we actually did this additionally in the city of Westland, and where we're partnering with one of the schools too. We came here, we met with President Pridemore and with the broker, and we actually showed her our job profit projections, our construction cost estimates, our market studies, everything. And we gave her an open book because we wanted to just be very honest about our offer. As much as we want to see the Village of New Haven succeed and we want to be a part of that, economics do have to work for us as well. And so we showed them everything to basically justify our offer of $40,000 for the property. And so we do understand that's a disappointing purchase price, and we understand that. And so but there are benefits over and above just the purchase price. You think about the National Association of Home Builders actually says that for each new single-family home in a community, 3 jobs are created. We estimate about, I think, $72,000 a year in increased tax revenue by the time this is all built out. That's based on 44 mills and assuming an average of $300,000 home price. You have more children in the schools, and you have more people supporting local businesses. So that's kind of part of the benefits of this. You go to the next one, Greg. So we just wanted to show you our site plan. So before, That's, on the left side is Amherst Phase 5, and that was based on basically the PUD plan, the wetland shown on the PUD plan. We don't really develop an alleyway product anymore, so we weren't gonna develop that exact plan. We were gonna do less density to begin with. However, as you can see, the wetlands took away out of the 21 lots we had, put it down to 10. We can't necessarily do that cul-de-sac anymore, although we might end up doing something for fire access or whatever, but you can't necessarily do the cul-de-sac. There's some of the lots are taken out because of that. And then Amherst Phase 6, very similar. Basically, half the land was taken by wetlands. So that resulted in a loss of another 37 home sites. So just going over high-level numbers, and I didn't get into the detail because the information I shared with President Pridemore when we met was very, very detailed, but instead of kind of getting into all that detail, just in the spirit of transparency, and that's what we really want to do is be transparent, these are how we came to our numbers. So basically, in the Phase 5 area, we think we can basically sell the homes at an average of $293,000. It's going to cost us $36,000 to develop the lots, and some of the reasons for that is the way the sewer is set up and stuff, and we have to bring it across the street, and then we have storm sewer we got to put in, we got to reconfigure some pavement, things like that. And so there is a cost associated with all that, and costs are higher than they have been historically because of labor and material and things like that. And then basically our construction cost, and we're kind of baking our profit into there. If we go to all that, basically the Phase 5 lots, there's no value left over there. All our costs, and by the time we make the profit that we have a goal of, there's nothing left in those lots. In the Phase 6 area, we actually think we could sell them for a little more because it'll be kind of its own separate community. It'll be all new construction in the area, and so we actually think we could sell those for around $310,000. We think those lots will cost us about $57,000 to develop, and basically just going over all those same numbers, there's basically a value of $833 per lot that we can pay and meet our profit goals, and take that by 45 lots, go up with $37,500 basically. So we just rounded it up because it's close enough. So the proposed terms of the purchase agreement are our purchase price of $40,000, due diligence of 5 days, which basically just means we're going to close. We're just going to basically order closing documents as soon as we go under contract. Then what we're going to do, because it's my understanding the village would like to take the open areas that we're going to leave with the wetlands, if there's some upland in them, and apply for a grant so that a park could be put there with some wood chip paths and maybe some benches, and that we're going to split the part that we're going to develop and the part that we will actually not develop, and the village will retain the part that we will not develop so that in the future a park can be built there. And then basically we're going to close, as soon as that split's done, we close. There's going to be some time there, but as soon as the split's done, we close. And then lastly, just because we're agreeing to give you a certain portion and it's based on a certain site plan, the village would be agreeing to approve a site plan substantially similar to kind of what we've shown. Now that doesn't mean the village can't say, hey, you need a fire access here, or you need to change this geometric. It's just the general road layout and lot sizes and that. Still all the same review criteria will come in to site plan, like fire access and circulation and all those important things. That none of that would be waived. So that's our proposal, and any questions?
So you said about the storm sewer, so you have to, going through the road, so you have to attach to that to the existing Amherst?
Yes, yep, the storm sewer will attach to the existing Amherst.
Okay, and then construction entrance, not necessary, or?
So for Phase 6, the entrance will be just its own separate entrance.
Right.
In Phase 5, the really only way to get there is to be through the existing community. I don't think there's any other way to really get there.
So are we going to require a bond for the roads? Are we going to require the only way to get to the Phase 5 is through the existing road, so are we going to require a bond for the road?
probably should.
Just because,
The construction traffic's gonna be going through the existing subdivision.
Yeah, for phase 5, it'll have to. That's it, because that's the only way to get there.
and that's for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 lots?
10.
10?
So 10 in addition to the existing
So
18.
is the construction traffic's already going back there for Haverhill?
Yeah,
Okay,
That's true.
okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
No, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then those 10 lots, because I assume in 6, there's gonna be an association
Yeah, 6 would be a separate association.
from 5,
Yeah.
right? So 5, those 10 lots, they'll be their own association.
They can be, you know, we haven't gotten that far to think about those things. They can be.
Okay.
They share the same roads and same everything, and, you know, I mean,
Yeah, I thought like, when we had previously discussed when they were gonna be doing more lots, the consideration was that those back portion would become part of Amherst Village.
Well, that's a possibility, but that requires a vote of the community. So it's not something we can just say we gotta do it and do it. There's kind of some.
Sure, but I think they were gonna try,
Okay.
yeah.
So
yeah,
then the
I think
reason
we're open to either way. I think it makes sense for it to be part of the existing HOA, those 10, because they use the same roads, they use the same everything, but they don't have to be.
And I guess the reason I asked that question is I'll skip to another question because I have reservations about keeping the split part. And my reservations are the community access to that is going to be limited. I think only people that live in Amherst are really going to be able to access that property. Because how are they going to get back there to those trails if you don't live in Amherst?
Well, there's no parking, from a logistical perspective, there's no place to put parking in.
Right.
But there is a give between, like, from a walking perspective, if it's just walking trails and not somewhere that people need to park for playscapes, there technically is a give between the actual houses and the railroad tracks, the word that I can't think of right now.
Right, and I see you could take the sidewalk and go between lot 5 and 6, or between 1 and 2. Those are gonna be some open spaces.
So our question, I mean, from a village perspective, not from Lombardo's perspective, that's one of the only areas in the village that doesn't have a connecting sidewalk.
Well, I was going there next, right?
Yeah.
So, there's no access for the rest of the community.
Mhm.
This would be, and then that would come at an expense, because we would have to maintain something there. I mean, an Eagle won't only allow you to do so much anyway. So then that leads me to say, if 1 through 10 are gonna be their own association, between 5 and 6, there's a big gap there, and between 1 and 2, there's a big gap. If I lived at 2, I would probably mow as far as I could to keep it neat and pretty, but that's my concern. Those are my concerns about those open gaps.
I think as a village, if we're going to retain that, we have to have that discussion, because part of the reason that as much of the wetland has encroached is the lack of maintenance. So it needs to continue to be maintained, or else any green space we reserve as a park is not a park if it's not.
Yeah, there's gonna be additional maintenance there, and I don't think that anything that we gain from a lot split, like you said, it will not be accessible to the entire village. However, the residents of Amherst would be able to enjoy it, and Pembroke, and just leaving the property as it is, as Mr. Lombardo says, if you don't maintain it at all, then you're gonna have more of that, more
Right.
wetlands. So there has to be some accountability for their piece of land. And I don't see a problem with acquiring the property, and all of the property, because of the extent of the wetlands, anything we do would have to be permitted by Eagle. And, you know, it's a cumbersome process, but we wouldn't be improving it a lot. But if we don't do something with the property, those wetlands are going to expand.
Absolutely.
So you're looking at, you know, mosquito breeding grounds and, you know, God only knows what else. There has to be some sort of maintenance there anyway. So I'm wondering if maybe it would be better if we took control of that property and, left it for the residents. I mean, it's a natural area.
What if that was included as part of the 10 lots, and then, that could be HOA property that they could have, like maybe if Lombardo would be willing to do so to develop the walking trail, that it would then be the HOA's property for the walking trail, since it really is only for that subdivision.
The problem is there's 2 HOAs back there.
And there's
Well, it
10
would be the
lots,
master association that would have to be responsible for it.
but it's not part of that.
And if you have a third HOA.
That's what they're saying, it's only gonna be an
HOAs.
HOA with 10 houses, they're not gonna have a budget to maintain that, and we're gonna end up with wetlands encroaching on the property
And
lines.
there are.
Well, but even if that 10 lots is created as a separate HOA, they're still gonna be part of the master HOA, aren't they?
No, it's separate.
No, that's what
So
they're saying.
those 10 lots aren't gonna have access to the swimming pools, they're not gonna have.
Not if we,
swimming
if they can onboard them to the back HOA, yes. But if they can't, because in 8 years that I've been in that HOA, we haven't been able to get quorum on either board. So if we can't get quorum to vote that they can become part of it and they become a separate one, 10 lots is not enough for an HOA to maintain a walk. Honestly, the 300 houses in Amherst right now is, our budget's strapped pretty thin just with the
Yeah,
pool,
they're not
let
gonna-
alone with a,
I just
yeah.
can't imagine a 10 house HOA all by itself with, it's like. that's
Okay,
the-
but the bottom line is someone's gonna have to maintain it.
Right.
And I think right now, if we do a lot split, if down the road we want to say, you ask the HOA, you want it, then we could teach.
You have the right to do it, but if
Right.
you leave it as Lombardo's, then you don't retain that right. I
Right.
mean,
With wetlands and whatnot, isn't there a way that you can do mitigation where you like designate maybe some other property for wetlands so that you can recover or use?
You have to buy it.
Yes, yeah, you buy, what happens is, somebody will they'll go up north somewhere, right, where they can buy land for $5,000 an acre or something, and they take it upland that isn't wetlands, and they create wetlands. And so they say, they got 20 acres of land, I made 20 acres of wetlands, and then I can go to that person and say, I want to impact 1 acre of wetlands. And typically I have to buy 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, I want to buy 2 acres of your wetlands. But it's very expensive, it costs about $120,000 an acre.
Is it possible to convert some of the open space to wetlands so that you could kind of shuffle where the wetland is and like consolidate it to the northwest corner of the property?
I think if we do a lot split, we would be able to decide the direction of development ourselves. So there's a lot of different options. Again, everything would have to go through Eagle.
Well, the reason why I bring it up is that if we were able to consolidate the wetlands to like the northwest corner, or if that's even possible, I don't even know if that's possible, but that would then, if it could open up more of that area for more houses and more lots.
I think you're talking about a lot of money.
I mean, yeah,
And
you're
I think
probably
we would have done
talking,
that.
yeah,
I don't know
like
how that works.
the figures on that would be crazy. Plus, in addition to that, just from like planning a subdivision, you have to have X amount of open space and green space, and your wetlands doesn't count towards that. So I think the percentage is still, for the few lots that you might gain and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that it would cost to do it, you're probably not.
What was the plan before you asked them to split and let us keep that part? What was your plan for that part?
It would have been open space for the association. It would have just been an unmaintained open space. But ultimately, if the open space was unmaintained, the lots, of course, those people who own those lots are going to mow those lots. So the lots wouldn't end up encroaching. But yeah, if it was just going to retain with us, it would have been an open space in the condominium.
Okay.
President Craig, can I interject something? I'm going to unretire just for a minute. The discussion tonight is probably more, is the deal we're offering reasonable? Is it enticing? Is it agreeable to you? The deal with the associations, whether it's part of it, whether there's a cost sharing, those are all things we can work out. Even with respect to the purchase agreement, I'm sure it could be structured that if we recorded the condominium for the first 10 lots in whatever Amherst 5 is,
Yeah.
we could leave the balance of that as future development area, which then it becomes its own separate parcel. The PA could trigger some kind of mechanism where we deed it you guys for $1 later, or whatever. I'm sure we can work that out. You're right, whoever made the comment about not being able to even get a quorum, that's the challenge at all homeowner association meetings, is getting a quorum. So expanding one of the two condominiums to bring these into it may be a challenge, might not be a challenge to create a third member of the master association, have cost sharing for the entrance to Amherst, for other things like that. So those things, we can probably figure out a way to work them out. I'm retired.
I knew it was sort of bad.
And I will say that I'm in support of moving forward with it, but I just know these are all questions that are gonna come up later, and that's why I think it's important that we're having the discussion about them. Instead of later go, oh, well, we didn't know, or we didn't ask, or.
Absolutely. I think the question right now is selling the property for $40,000. Originally, the entire parcel was going to go for $300,000. That was the original selling price. And we appreciated the offer that we got in December. But we understand with the expansion of the wetlands and the economic environment the way it is now, it would be challenging to put those houses up. You're doing it at a profit, you're lucky. I've got to ask you a question though. Any of the homes that you are building, considering they're going to be backed up to either a village park or a wetlands, are you going to be charging them lot premiums, do you think?
I don't know yet, but if we can, we of course will.
I'm just trying to think of maximizing our dollar.
Yeah.
40,000, and I told you at the meeting, was a disappointment. It's a real disappointment. If we're going to sell out that property, and we do understand the trade-off, we get the rooftops, we get the tax dollars, and we get more families here. But 40,000, holy smoke, that's kind of a beat in the head. So I think the question that we, and I've forwarded to everybody the information that I got from you. The question here tonight is, do we want to move forward with dedicating this property to the homes as indicated on the slide? Now, I am, to be honest with you, I'm kind of hesitant if we do move forward with a lot split. I'm kind of hesitant to do anything until we get that. I'm just cautious by nature. But I think we can get a feel for whether or not we would be looking forward to getting more rooftops and for the $40,000 price point. Do I have any thoughts on that?
I just have a question on the part that would be deeded over. Do we have the figures on how big the size of the open space would be on both sections, the north and south, 5 and 6?
I think those are pathways, really.
When we split the lot, what would be the
What's
portion
the
that the
acreage?
village retains out of that
Yeah.
47 acres? What would?
I don't have that answer.
Yeah.
I don't have that answer. Out of the 47 acres though, it's at least half, if not more. Because a part of it in the original PUD agreement, PUD was already going to be an open space because that's where the original wetlands were. And so that was already there. I don't know the exact numbers.
See, that's the current wetlands for phase 6. It's considerable. And then that's it for 7. There seems to be more open space to the north.
Yeah, that's where my question was, how much land would you be maintaining at that point?
Well, I mean, when you talk about maintaining, it's developing a nature area. And again, we would have to go to Eagle because of the expansion of wetlands. So we would be basically, if we asked for a lot split, we would be betting that we would be able to maintain and control it as a nature center or a nature area for our residents. I could tell you that, and I did some homework on it, properties that were acquired by communities to develop as nature centers, there are a lot of viable options that were very low cost. Wood chip pathways, like you said, planting native trees, things like willows to absorb some of the moisture. There are some low-cost improvements that we would be able to use that as a nature area for the residents. So, but do we want to just leave it as wetlands? Do we want to just not do the lot split? I'd like to try and get
If we're
something.
doing a lot split, we would have to kind of know that figure, right? We would have to know what we're splitting and.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of hesitant to approve anything.
So the current purchase agreement basically says, we go under contract, I create the lot split document,
Okay,
and then there's no closing until after the lot split's been approved. One other thought I had, just as you guys try and figure out if you really want it or not, what we could do is create the lot split document, put it as an exhibit to the agreement, and then basically it says, at closing, you guys have a 1-year option to purchase that piece for $1 from us, or, you know what I mean? So we just pay you the $40,000 within 5 days, we put the lot split document on there, and then at closing, you guys receive a 1-year option to purchase that from us for $1. And then you got the year to make a decision.
so,
And that gives us the opportunity, because we do need to
Figure out
do a
what
little
we
bit of
wanna do.
homework on that.
yeah,
Because you just can't, I mean, Eagle has some pretty stringent rules, even as far as mowing goes. So,
that gives us an option. Okay, now, we're gonna make one last push for something over 40,000. I have to ask because that is such a low figure. Yeah,
From 300,000 to 40,000 because of the wetlands, I mean, some of it got taken over, that's a slap in the face, basically what you said, that's a lot.
So to answer two questions, the remaining area is about 20 acres. And then wetland mitigation or movement, you have to create 2 to 1. And it goes through like a 5-year monitoring with the state. It's very expensive.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking just, at the very least, it'd be nice if the end of West Branton Street and Phase 5, like if it could actually be the cul-de-sac or something, and just to mitigate even just a small portion of the wetlands.
You're talking creating 2 to 1 wetlands with certain species, and you have to go for permitting. And then the state would require to do a 2-tier monitoring plans. You want to watch for the species to being healthy and all that, and then do an annual report and submit it. Anything get damaged or not living properly, you have to fix it. And it goes forever. You cannot move it after that.
Right. Yeah, understood.
That's part of it. Any protected species that you have, you cannot move. That's after you do the proper wetland survey and inventory of what kind of vegetation and species exists.
How many lots did you say you lost to the wetland encroachment?
47.
Okay, so just for point of reference, I know it's a slap in the face for us as well, but that profit is sizable on 47 lost lots too. So they're also making a significant less profit on building out that expansion.
I understand that too.
Yeah, I don't necessarily feel like it's a slap in the face. We know that one of the things that the residents really want is green space. And, how do we achieve both, green space as well as just seeing this land get developed instead of it sitting and continuing to develop more and more wetlands, continuing to grow and frankly just to go to waste. Something needs to be done with the property so that it doesn't continue to just keep growing as wetlands and dwindling away.
Did we ask the residents of that survey of this, what they wanted to see, more rooftops or parking?
yeah, that's been a discussion held before. And, yeah, we did that about a year, how long ago did we do that? It was over a year ago, where we asked some of the residents. But that was before we knew that happened. Okay, the question is I have a couple of concerns about the language. Were you asking us to approve site plans before they were developed in the language of the purchase agreement?
Basically, the language in the purchase agreement it's not approving a site plan, it's saying that we will approve a site plan that's substantially similar to what's shown. Just because we were agreeing basically to give you a certain legal description of land, and that certain legal description of land was based on a certain site plan, right? But that would still go through the whole site plan process. It was just saying, you're agreeing to approve something substantially similar to this. That wouldn't mean you don't get review rights to all the normal things during a site plan, just the lot size and general road layout, right? But, you know, circulation, fire safety, all those things, it would still have to go through the site plan review process like any other community would.
So the footprint of the development you're proposing substantially would not change?
Yeah, we basically, if we make a deal, we're gonna submit that. And that's what we're gonna submit for a site plan.
Now, the easements, you and I discussed the easements. Could you kind of explain about the easements you might need?
Yes, so if you look on, and I'll just walk over here so I can show it to you. If you look on this plan right here, on the after plan, and you see behind the lots, there's some dashed lines in that. Those are storm sewer and sanitary sewer. There's also a mailbox that's to be relocated. Basically, we're just saying we reserve the right to get easements to put in the storm and sanitary and pipes that we have to put in to service those lots in that green space area.
Which normally they are within the lots. I'm not sure if they need that space.
We're gonna put everything back.
Yeah, everything will be fixed.
The road and everything will be put back.
Absolutely,
It looks
yeah.
like you're gonna be digging up a road.
Yes.
No?
Were there any other questions, or?
I just have a comment,
Sure.
and it's just for public reference, and that's that Wilson Road Group came out and gave a, what we call it, a professional
Assessment?
assessment of the property, and as they assessed, they match.
Yeah, thank you for providing it, I appreciate it. Anyone else, any questions or concerns?
We've had plenty of opportunity to maintain this wetland, take care of this, and do something with it different if we wanted to. And we've not. And now we're here with less money because that, and it seems to me we're on a glide slope to go even less or nothing. And then have something to do something with that substantial cost that we either, you know, could have, I don't know, the proof's in the pudding, right? So.
My hang up here is and I understand what you're saying, Cosmo, about agreeing to approve a site plan substantially similar. My only hang up on behalf of my clients, them being publicly elected officials, is that it's difficult for them now, today as a board, to agree in the future to another decision that they'll make. So I would be more comfortable on behalf of my clients agreeing to something that says will not unreasonably withhold approval of a site plan substantially similar to the form attached here too.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, especially if we go the route of giving the year option on the split instead of doing the split right away, which we're open to either way. But yes, I'm very comfortable with that.
Okay, any other questions or concerns?
So any purchase agreement that we vote to tonight will reflect what the attorney just.
The amended language, right? Thank you so much for giving us all this information. I just want to tell you that ahead of time. I really appreciate your help with this. Any questions, concerns, or do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to move forward with the offer as presented. Do you want to say?
As amended.
As amended, thank you.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Can I have a roll call?
Trustee Dombrowski?
Yes.
Trustee Colley?
Yes.
Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
You have to abstain.
Trustee Guerrero?
No.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
And President Pridemore.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. One other thing that we did discuss, and if you want to do it tonight, is when me and you met President Pridemore, we discussed a program that we're doing with the City of Westland Schools. That's a construction internship program to help young people get into the construction industry. And Greg Lincoln, I'd like to talk to you guys about that.
can I just make a comment about this before we move to that? One moment, please. So what is our plan about what we'll do with the property? Like, I would really like to see a plan in place.
We've got a year to
I know that, but a year's gonna go by really quick.
we're not gonna decide yet.
Not today, but can we by the next meeting?
We're
Okay.
gonna- we're gonna jump on it later.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear. Thank
We're
you.
jumping on it. So this program, you already have it in Westland?
No.
Okay, wrong question.
That's right, that's why I'm here. So thank you for the earlier action as well as for giving me just a couple minutes to speak. One of the things that Anthony has been talking about for a couple of years now is community give back. And we build affordable homes, we build high quality homes and that, but we don't go out in the community and give back to the community. We don't do all these active programs that you may see other companies do. So as Cosmo mentioned earlier in his discussion, there's trade shortages, there's material shortages, but really impacting our business is getting enough skilled tradespeople. And for the longest time, we've conditioned our children that if you don't go to college and get a 4-year education and come out of school with all sorts of school debt, you're not going to amount to anything. And it's just not necessary, or it's not necessarily true. Skilled trades jobs now, electrician, plumber, HVAC, whatever you have, those are very profitable careers. You can go to a trade school, you can come out of there with 0 debt, and you can become an apprentice, and within a couple of years you can be making a very comfortable living. You can go on to open your own business if you like, you can stay with the company. There's just so many paths, but we don't know that school kids necessarily get that push or that incentive to go that way. So one of the things, a similar situation with Wayne Westland Schools, they had 2 old elementary schools that they wanted to sell. They had demoed them, they wanted to sell. They actually thought each piece of land was going to be worth about $1 million. If it makes you feel any better, we wound up buying them for $50,000 for both of them because we went through the exact same transparent discussion we did with you folks of here's what it costs, here's what's left. We're not embarrassed to say we're a for-profit company. We're not making a lot of profit on these. We make more profit in other neighborhoods. But at the same time, we have to make money to stay in business, just like when you folks go to work. So when we laid out all the numbers, it didn't work. One of the things the school district said was, we understand that, but you guys are a big resource. What if you partner with us in our trade school program, whether you come in and mentor, whether you come in and lecture, whether you let some of our kids come out and do jobs. That's just, and we don't know what that looks like yet. So that's why a little bit sarcastically I said no when you asked what kind of program we have, because we don't know yet.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in my future role, once I hopefully get there, one of my key things is going to be to work with high schools and their construction programs and trying to facilitate some kind of partnership. Absolutely, it's self-serving because the more kids we can get into skilled trades, the more it helps our industry. But that's, we think, a great partnership opportunity for us. So we're going to be contacting the New Haven schools, and I think Cosmo had mentioned you, so you had a little bit of interest in it. So we just want to share that with you. Don't have any idea what shape or form it's going to take, other than we're very interested in doing it. So that was it. If you have any questions or anything, I'd be glad to try to answer them, but more information.
Yeah. But no, once you get this thing off the ground, you're going to let us know, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Exciting. Thank you. All right, item C, budget approval, fiscal year 2022, 2023. We had a couple of budget hearings, and with Sandy's Able Assistance Quarterly, we'll be able to keep up. And I think we have a growing knowledge of where our budget stands. Did anybody have any questions for Sandy going forward about the budget for the coming year? And again, the budget, as you all know, is fluid. As things change, we amend it. So this is really just approving a snapshot of where we stand today. Anybody have any questions, concerns?
I have questions on the budget resolution that we have. Is that what everyone is now? Because it references an Exhibit A, but I don't see an Exhibit A anywhere.
Yeah, that's the entire budget. The sheets that you got?
No, I got the 22-23 budget resolution.
Right. This one right here? It says Exhibit A?
Yeah.
Yeah, Exhibit A is the budget.
Is the actual,
It's the actual,
we got.
little tiny
Okay.
sheet with all the little tiny figures on it. This is Exhibit A.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the resolution number?
2022-003.
Anybody have any questions, concerns? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we adopt resolution 22-003, a 2022-2023 budget resolution.
Support.
And properly moved and supported. All those in favor of adopting the budget?
Aye.
Opposed?
Do you need a roll on that?
Yeah, I was wondering about that because it's dollar figure. Yeah, let's do a roll call.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Connolly?
Yes.
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes?
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
And President Freiberg.
Yes, we're not cutting a check, so I just kind of get, Okay, and the budget amendment, Sandy?
Can you hear me now?
That sounds familiar.
My budget amendments, of course, you know that I go quarterly and I go through and do some house picking on the accounts. One of the things that came up that you can see that we're transitioning into a slower building age, I don't know what you call it or whatever. Anyways, the building department permits and things, I had to have them go down $75,000 for the end of the year. So we're seeing a slowing, you can see the slowing in my budget here. Turn on, turn off charges in the water department. You can see that most of the turn on and stuff like that is because of the buildings and stuff like that, so that I had to bring that down. And also too, the water meters. So we didn't have that many water meters, but it was put in. So you can see the slowdown of the building, the construction around here. Of course, probably in April, everything will start gearing up, but for our end of this year and the timing issues and stuff like that, I had to bring those line items down because of the fact that I had to keep those within 10%. My guess got to be within 10%. That $7,000, not 10%. As usual, I have to go through and look at the salaries, and mostly my bookkeeping is for like the for DPW. You guys know, so I had to update the overtime and stuff like that. For the Act 51 money, gas, as you know, went up, so I had pushed the expenses up a little bit on that. I did take some of the capital outlay on the local roads down because of the sidewalks didn't cost as much as we thought it was going to be. So I brought that down to the actual cost.
What line are you on now?
I'm just way down to local. I'm like on my gas and oil, capital outlay, $465,000, and I brought it down the line to, I took $111,000 off, I think it was, down to $369,000. Can you see it?
Yeah.
What else? Postage went up. Paint charges went up. The equipment and repairs and maintenance went down a little bit. Memberships and dues went up a little bit, and a little bit of the debt went up. Does anybody have any questions that you see?
Just out of curiosity, what was the for underwater professional services testing? There was a 4,800, 4,848, 4,848. It was a decrease.
Oh, the reason why that was increasing, instead of having to, I was marked this here, the water testing, they had to add like almost 10 more tests a week or something like that. So, and we send our stuff to Mount Clemens, so our actual testing cost went actually double, I think it was. So that's why that's showing that right there.
Sampling.
Huh?
Eagle sampling.
Eagle sampling, there we go. Did anybody else have anything else, questions? So basically my changes are going to, it's a net decrease of $25,370 to the budget.
is this an anomaly in the adjustment, or is that in par is that in sync with the previous adjustments you've made? You know what I'm saying, right? Does that make sense, the way I said that?
This is an anomaly.
Yes, this seems volatile compared to the previous adjustments you've made.
I was waiting out to see what was happening with the building information, because right now, this is when we gear up.
Right.
So we had nothing like that. In fact, everything went down. It was a little bit of volatile for snow removal and stuff like that, so that went up a little bit, the expenses, stuff like that. Right now, I'm just now seeing where I can see the line items. I still have another 2 months to go on these lines.
Yeah.
So, and I have to figure out that, and I did puff them up a little bit, but not a lot. And like I said, all these line items have to be technically within 10%. And then I have 60 days after this budget to put any kind of expenses or revenue come in as receivables or expenses to the budget. So hopefully I have put enough here to cover all that. I mean, I basically know what it is, but there's still unforeseen stuff that might come through. I will have better numbers for it at the next meeting. When we have a revenue expenditure report, we can see what our thing is. But our final numbers, of course, are when we get the audit. One of the things that we did do, I don't know if you guys, I think we can pass that on about what Michael said about the sewer. We did an analysis of it, and we are not in a deficit situation. So that's good news. So after that, we'll figure out where we actually stand. But preliminary numbers state that we are in a positive cash flow with the sewer. So we're all excited about that. So hopefully now we can start working on getting the sewer bond payments down for the residents after this fiscal year. Any questions?
Everybody motion?
Make motion that we adopt the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget amendments as presented. Support.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Cowley?
Yes.
Trustee Bokowski?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yeah.
And President Price?
Yes. Fire millage proposal, this is something I just wanted to throw out there. When we did our budget review, I did a little homework on a couple of different millages that we currently have. And the ongoing expenses of the fire department. We have not increased the fire millage. The last time it was set was in 1995-96. So it's been 27 years. They've been operating at 3%. So I was wondering what your thoughts would be on increasing the fire millage by a percentage of a percent, not 1 mil, like we did with Parks and Rec. If we put it up at 0.25, it's an additional $25,000 per year. Excuse me, because it was set by a voter initiative. We would have to craft ballot language if we wanted to increase the fire millage even incrementally to either like 0.25, 0.35. We do have the money, and I talked to Sandy about it, just reassigning funds from the general fund without a tax increase. So if we do craft a ballot initiative, if you guys think this is a good idea, we can do it to say, shall the village, something like shall the village of New Haven increase the fire millage by whatever percent without a tax increase. So that the residents know your tax is not going up. Again, the fire millage hasn't been increased in 27 years, and we've grown, costs have gone up. So it might make sense, instead of them coming hand in hand, just an incremental tax increase. Anybody have any thoughts?
One of the things that I kind of noticed when we look at the growth activity, the incremental growth for 2022 tentative, granted it's tentative. I mean, it's more than 0.25. I always support our fire department, but we are getting more money as the property taxes come
Well,
up.
that was just a number I threw out if people were, if you guys were interested in a ballot proposal to increase the fire millage. Of course, it would be up to the council to determine if they do want to move forward with an increase and the percentage of the increase. If we want to get it on a ballot, there are deadlines. We have an April 26th deadline to file ballot language. It is a very simple language. It would be, they have no doubt it would be approved. So we do have the luxury of the April meeting to decide. But I want to know if there's something you guys want to move forward with and come up with a figure. And Ways and Means is going to be meeting, so I think that's something Ways and Means can look into as well as the other issues. So.
I have some more questions.
Yeah.
So with the, what would be the plan for which ballot that it would be on? Would it be a midterm or mid-year? Or
There's only two election dates available. That would be the August primary date and then the November elections.
And then how much, do we know roughly how much it costs us to add a ballot initiative? I mean, would we be paying more than the 25,000 or 31,000
No.
or whatever?
No, it's incremental. It's just not that much to file for a ballot initiative. I think the last time it was a couple of hundred, but that was a while ago. I can certainly look that up and provide that information to Ways and Means. That is a good
Because if they don't, I guess, you know, if it was the mid-year, the primaries, if there's nothing, well, I guess there's going to be, there has to be something in the primaries, so it's not like it's a special.
No.
Okay,
No.
never mind.
No, this would be where there are other issues on the ballot, like elections or.
That's where I was kind of thinking, like if this was a special election just for this, I would imagine that would have to be costly. But.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about that.
And this is just reassigning funds, correct?
Yes. Like as we did with Parks and Rec.
But we still have the option that we can move general funds into the fire department fund if we see necessary. We can, the general fund can pay for things for them.
Well, the General Village Law Act actually states that the community will pay for things like fire equipment. That's in the General Village Law Act. But an ongoing sustaining funding would have to be a ballot initiative.
So at the last audit meeting, it was last summer, I had a discussion with, and I don't remember who was presenting it, but I brought up, what about getting rid of the special assessment altogether and just raising the actual millage 3 mills, because then you would capture the real property in that. So it would actually be, the millage rate would stay the same, but you would actually increase the budget with it and then fund the fire department from there.
Yeah, that's another figure we can look at. But again, that's 3 mills on what, it's a very small percentage of what we'll be collecting. So again, Ways and Means is going to meet. That is definitely a good point. We can look into that, and they have all the facts and figures available for Ways and Means so that they can make a recommendation to council. And again, we do have the luxury of one more meeting before we have to submit ballot language. So is this something we want to move forward with?
I mean, personally, if we were gonna decide to do a ballot initiative, I'd rather see it at the November election rather than the primaries, just because the November election is usually better attended, and it's not. There's always the stigma about doing things on the primaries. Does that give us? Does that give us a little bit? Does that give us more time if we were to target for the November instead of?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the deadline for ballot language was July.
Okay. So we have a little bit more time then if we all agree that we would target the November instead of August.
Okay, so we should add this to the Ways and Means Committee menu. Is that okay? We do that? Okay. All right, we'll do that. The draft golf cart ordinance. Do you know we have a very significant golf cart community here in New Haven? And I think we should probably take a stab at regulating it with an ordinance. It will allow us to it will enable us to inspect the golf carts for safety equipment. The state actually has state law governing golf carts. And this ordinance reflects a lot of their language. You really can't supersede the language that they have, but you can add to it. But I'm thinking just from a safety standpoint, because I have seen, we have a heavy presence in my subdivision. I saw one golf cart that had 8 kids, it looked like 8 kids hanging off of it. They were hanging off the poles, and this thing was doing 40 miles an hour down a side street. And I think that it's a great option. Richmond currently has a golf cart ordinance. But I think that if we are going to see an uptick in golf cart usage, we need to exercise our responsibility to make sure that these things are safe and that the people that are using them are aware of the roads they cannot travel on by state law, and just ensure the health and safety of the residents. So that's where this came from. Any thoughts, questions, the need for a golf cart ordinance in the community? Yeah, there go the eyebrows, so.
There was a couple of items in here that I had issue with. You know, whether or not we need the ordinance at all, I guess is a different topic. If we were to decide that we wanted to move forward with an ordinance, you know, one of the things that really struck out to me the most was that we have these provisions about headlamps, tail lamps, stop lamps, turn signals. So they have all of this equipment that makes them more visible at night, and then we have a provision that says you can't drive at night. So it's like, well, then what's the point?
Yeah. Well, but part of the permitting process is that if they sign it, they accept responsibility. Because if we craft an ordinance and say, oh yeah, you can ride your zip around 10 o'clock at night, no problem, then they get T-boned. Oh, that's what your ordinance said.
If you don't have the language in there, though, you're not necessarily giving them permission, right?
Right, and that's a good point, but again, if we, what we want to do is make sure that the village isn't held liable for people operating these things.
I mean, to me, it would seem, I mean,
does the state have a regulation about when you can operate these things?
So, and I reference this a lot in this ordinance draft, the enabling ordinance is MCL 257.657A, right? And it's got a ton of subsections. It's 21 subsections with a multitude of subsections. I'm not aware of anywhere in here, I don't think it actually says explicitly that you can't operate them at night. Yeah, the word night or
It says dusk till dawn.
oh, does it say that?
in our ordinance.
And you know, I think that language came from the Richmond ordinance because
Where do you see dust? You see that in the ordinance. You don't see that in the state law.
Right.
And
of course, it's not the state law, right?
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's something that the enabling the enabling statute does not prevent us from having. So I think that's perfectly fine. I get your point, what you're trying to say, Trustee Meissen. Those provisions that you're seeing, the 2 headlamps, the 1 tail lamp, the 1 stop lamp, the 1 red reflector, those are actually all in the state law. They're in subsection 21, and it does allow us to use those. It's not necessarily just for night, it's general safety for low-speed vehicles in the Michigan Vehicle Code. So.
Sure. Because then there was other things in here that I saw about, you know, safety belts, MCL 257.710A. When I looked that up, it really was only talking about highway usage, not necessarily like low-speed public roads. One of the other things that I had issue with was, you know, we say that it can't be operated on a roadway or street with a speed limit of more than 30 miles an hour, and that the ordinance only, you know, that it's really only to allow them to cross the street. So if I'm thinking like, you know, somebody with a golf cart that decides to leave to Core Park subdivision, they go to cross over Gratiot, but then they're not allowed to drive on the sidewalk or the road, so they cross the street, but then they can't go anywhere.
So you can use like paths adjacent to these state trunk lines if they were so designated. You can do that, it's allowed for that in the state ordinance. And if we wanted to incorporate that into reference, we could, the ordinance, we could. But that's really, the reason that that's baked in there, again, because it's in the state statute is, if you have a 30-mile-per-hour road on one side of the state trunk line and a 30-mile-per-hour on the other side, right? It's just, we have to say, okay, you can operate on the 30-mile-per-hour road and also you can cross that state trunk line. That's why that's in there. so that you could drive along that road and also cross any of these faster 45-mile-per-hour roads that have to go through.
Yeah, because I mean, if they're staying in the subdivision and they're not driving up and down Gratiot, to me, I don't feel like it's as much of a concern. Where I do admittedly see that there could be some concerns. I know last year there was a parade of golf carts that traversed the entire village and kind of flaunted the fact that they were all having their golf carts and whatnot. Probably not a good idea, But if they're driving around the subdivision, putting around, or and it's after dark, that I don't,
Yeah,
I don't see a
that
problem.
we could eliminate that.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, I stole mercilessly from the Richmond ordinance, so that could be eliminated.
Was there an outcry from the community about regulating golf carts, or is that?
It's just from a safety standpoint. I think we've got, because there's so many of them, the idea was we want to ensure that they have the right equipment. We want to make sure that there's a safety factor in there, and we want the drivers to be aware you can't drive down Gratiot. You can't drive, because I've seen them on Gratiot.
And that
But doesn't the
100%.
state law already cover that?
Yeah, it does, but if we don't pass an ordinance, And
Well, we're still covered under the state law.
We're still covered under the state law, but
Right.
it's making the residents
That's-
aware, and this would make them
How
aware.
does this make them aware? Are we gonna knock on everybody's door that has a golf cart?
No, we post that we have an ordinance.
So, but that's no different than the state and
Right.
the laws in the state of Michigan.
What?
So
That's-
the state of Michigan doesn't allow you to drive your golf cart down
Right.
Gratiot, correct?
Right.
Okay. So how does this differ from that?
Because we would be able to give them, the little cheap sticker on the front. They would be made aware of all the laws. Right now, the sheriff's department doesn't have the authority. Under that state law, if we had an ordinance, they'd be able to say, hey, you can't drive on Gratiot. And if they got the sticker, they were aware they couldn't drive on Gratiot. It's just more enforcement to keep them out of a dangerous situation. There's certainly nothing that says that we have to have an ordinance, but we need a mechanism to make these people aware you are subject to state law about golf carts, and how do we do that?
But they're subject to state law regardless.
Right, how do we make
subject
them
to it.
aware of that?
But
That's
ignorance
your
of the
job
law is not
as a
really
ci-
a.
Right, but that's, ignorance is no
Yeah.
excuse in the court of law.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Sure.
It's my job to find out what the rules are and follow them.
Right.
Yeah, that's my apprehension with following a proposed ordinance that relies so heavily on state law. We're making two laws for the exact same thing now.
Well, we're putting in a couple of
There's
things.
a couple of things.
And also
That are
might take
tailored to-
$10.
Yeah, that's my apprehension with something. It's just I don't believe that it's necessary.
Okay. That was always a thought. Now we do need a mechanism to make the people aware of the state law and how they can't travel on Gratiot,
So
how they can't travel on 26 Mile. So how do we do that?
Are we 100% positive that the state law doesn't give Macomb County Sheriff's Department the ability to enforce?
Oh, no, they would, and we can certainly remind them that you have to enforce the law, and if you see anybody on Gratiot, you see anybody on 26
Right,
Mile?
because so how is that going to be any different than if we have an ordinance? That still, you have to remind them that we have an ordinance in place, and they have to enforce that.
Yeah, well, the ordinance, again, there's a couple, it was crafted to have a couple of New Haven specific regulations, and again, this is an option, we don't have to pass this, and we can remind the sheriff's department, remind the golf carts not to go on Gratiot, not to, but the state law says you can't go on a street more than 30 miles an hour? Okay, so it's Gratiot, that's 26 Mile.
Yeah, they're already covered for the most part within the village.
Yeah.
Right, I'd rather see us put some flyers out on Facebook or whatever, or,
That just says
with
we're-
our new
yeah.
signage that we'll have eventually,
Sure.
Can we use Act 51 money to make golf cart paths on the side of our roads?
No. With a handful of, no.
So a handful, if we need to regulate it, we've got a lot of it.
Okay, so the feeling is we don't need it, right? And we just gotta get the word out that there's a state law and 8 kids hanging out the back of a golf cart, perfectly fine, as long as they're not on Gratiot. So that's okay.
I mean, I think that there's some other things, like the state law already calls for like specific ages for operation, and I think we just need to make them aware that there's a state law. Personally, I don't drive mine on Gratiot except across either,
Yeah.
like if you're doing it responsibly, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when they're in the subdivisions, I don't think it's an issue.
And I only hit jumps and knock people off the back of mine when it's like my sister.
And that's the limit.
Well, and I mean, the only time that you want to see somebody being towed behind a golf cart is, never mind, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there. Okay, so we just won't bother with the golf cart ordinance. I'll shoot an email to Sheriff's Department, remind them of the state law, and then, yeah, on your own, okay.
You can remind her about quads and aren't allowed to do 60 miles an hour down River Oaks as well.
I think four-wheelers.
That's a
Yeah, it's a
So I'm
business,
just,
you know?
I don't
Yeah.
mean to, I'm not trying to pile on or anything, I'm just,
Yeah.
that's.
Okay, animal control ordinance. We had an unfortunate incident in our community where a young man was injured by a dog. We heard about this second and third hand. We were never made aware that an injury of this type happened in our community. We do contract with the Macomb County Animal Shelter. So I did reach out to them, and I said, you know, we would like to be notified if something of this nature that could lead to either misdemeanor or felony charges occurs in our village. He said that he has wanted New Haven to update their animal control ordinance for quite a while. So this is what we're going to be asking you to do. I reached out, I reviewed our animal control ordinance, and it is woefully out of date. So I asked him to forward a copy of the Macomb County Animal Control Ordinance, and again, they do serve as our animal control agency. And it's a pretty robust ordinance. Not very long, pretty clear cut, but it does allow incidents like this, vicious animal attacks, to be charged at the court level with either a misdemeanor or a felony. Right now, the way our ordinance stands, the guy gets a ticket. In the meantime, the child ended up at the hospital getting reconstructive surgery. So I'm asking you, I forwarded a copy of the ordinance to you all. And again, this is already the county ordinance. But he asked that if we approve this ordinance tonight, if we do approve this ordinance, I forward a copy up to the county, and they use this ordinance to enforce animal control issues in the village. Did everyone have a chance to kind of go over it?
Where did that happen?
I don't know.
You don't know where in the village?
Well, it's HEPA, but we can't really discuss it.
Because I came with a vicious animal attack in our neighborhood too, and I was just directed to our ordinance, which is nothing.
And again, our ordinance, that's why we're updating this. We're looking to update it. But yeah, that's a big one.
It is, and you can't even say vicious, because in order to say vicious as a legal term, the court decides if it's vicious. And it was just the runaround, and nothing happened, and
Yeah,
the dog is still.
We're trying to straighten that out with this. And again, if we do pass it, he asked that we forward a copy of the ordinance that says it is the Village of New Haven Animal Control Ordinance. And he is also setting up a mechanism to notify us if any injuries or animal abuse cases come up that would trigger either a misdemeanor or a felony charge, we're going to be notified. So we're setting that mechanism up as well. Did anyone have any questions on the language?
So without this ordinance, if somebody was mauled by that, there is no criminal penalty?
Now, we have an ordinance in place now. No, it's a ticket.
Okay.
And again, he said he was hoping for a while that we would update our animal control ordinance, because that's what they follow when they enforce animal control issues in our community, and we're looking to do that right now. And it's basically their language. It's a good ordinance. And he told me it was adopted by a couple of communities. Do we have any other questions?
There's just one thing odd that stuck out to me, and that's section 6.4.
Mm-hmm.
So it talks about animals, and then the last line is kind of just thrown in there randomly. It says animals must be confined to the rear of the property.
Mm-hmm. That's their language.
It is?
Yes.
So
Yeah, because you've got public access in the front of your property, right? You got a sidewalk.
So no dog, my dog can't be in the front yard.
No, your dog can be in the front yard, can't be tethered or confined to the front yard.
It does, that's not what this sentence says. It says animals must be confined to the rear of the property.
What was it say before that?
It's about where the animal goes to the bathroom.
Okay.
It needs to, but, yeah, animals must be confined to the rear of the property. That means my dog cannot be in the front yard. Because it doesn't say that it's, you know, something about
It
the
is weird the way
defecating needs
that's
to be
just-
included in
Yeah.
It is
that.
weird the way
That was
that
their
just sets
language.
in there, huh?
Yeah, it, doesn't it?
Yeah, because,
Or-
well, the paragraphs on defecation, which I kind of stuck right to that, because that's honestly an
Just
issue,
trying to be
but I don't know if we're gonna get ticketed for it or not, but it is weird that it says, because you have to infer from that it means your dog can only defecate in the rear of your yard.
Of your yard, because it says you won't even have them on other private or public or other people's
Yeah.
public
No, I
property.
agree with
So
that.
you can't have it going anybody else's yard.
We could have been the language to say that the dog must be confined to the rear of the property unless the owner is with the animal in the front of the yard. We could do that.
How about when animal is defecating?
I mean, I can't believe it.
I know. and
It's
I-
not in the counties.
Yeah, it's not, that's the county language.
No, I'm in the counties right now,
I
it's
was gonna
not.
say,
That line is not in there.
No,
I
it's
think
not.
that line should be stricken from it right there, just say
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with,
All it
Right.
does not say that it should be confined.
That allows me to say,
I was gonna
The
say
one
that.
that I was
collies have their
on,
dog in the
This is
front
their
yard.
current one off their website right now, it doesn't have it
honestly, if
there.
I have my dog, in my front yard on a leash,
But that's where it's at in
and
ours,
you can't get to the public.
is under
access.
defecation.
Yeah.
Or would be a
That was- that was
fenced-in
their
front
language.
yard.
I
Yeah,
thought-
this is the current one from their website right now, it's not on there.
I thought when we had the discussion about having this ordinance put in place, that you were the one that mentioned about putting the stipulation there.
Right, but that was in the language, and I thought, oh, well, it's in their language. It's in their language.
If it's not in theirs, I think we should strike it from ours. I mean, I don't have a dog, so I don't have any skin in the game here, but
You know,
I do like the idea of having something in there about
the
not
copy he sent
having
me had that language.
dog waste in your front yard. I mean, that's gross and disgusting and it stinks and it's a public, you're right along the sidewalk. But
yeah, but if it's in their own front yard, I mean,
Yeah, but we do have a problem in our subdivision.
I
right
don't-
now where-
I don't have a dog, so I personally would love to see it not anywhere, but
Yeah. We have the
We
problem
don't
now in
want to
our
tether-
subdivision
just tether
where people
the
tether
dogs.
their dogs in the front and they defecate all over and they don't pick
on
up.
theirs, I don't.
Okay, we can table this right now. I will review the language, but the copy that he sent me had that language in it. Now, that may be on their website, but the
Yeah.
copy that he sent me had that language in it.
I mean, it matches otherwise, word for word.
The only other thing that I added was, the only clause I added was you cannot have livestock in the village of New Haven to include sheep, swine, because, we want to ensure that
You
people
don't like
don't.
sheep?
Well, we just want to make sure that people understand that they can't keep.
Really looking forward to a golf cart
Yeah, but
ride.
I pretty much copied it verbatim, and I will, we'll table, if you want to
I
table
could see
it.
that being a little,
Well, we could clarify the language.
perfect, that
But,
sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, but that was in their ordinance that he sent me, so.
President Primer, for the livestock part, I know there are folks in the village who have livestock that fits that description.
Chicken.
I mean, what does that do?
There are,
May or may not be.
There may, or may
What does that do for them? I mean, if,
It's just hang out on Main Street.
when I talked to the guy at Animal Control, I said, well, we put a livestock, and he goes, well, yeah, as far as I know. The only issue they had was up in Lenox Township. He's not aware of anyone doing it, so he put it in there. I know that we had an issue with a young lady on Creekview in Decor Park that had chickens.
Yeah.
What was the resolution on that?
HOA forced her to remove them.
Why? If it was allowed
It
by
was
ordinance,
it
why?
was an HOA
the HOA has a
in the bylaws.
Oh,
bylaw.
You're only allowed to have 2 dogs, 2 cats, or any combination thereof.
Wow.
Yeah.
so the HOA rules
Yeah,
are okay for decor, but,
that's how it is in Amherst and Pembroke and all of them.
okay.
But it's only in the subdivisions, it's not in the rest of the village.
Okay.
I do also have a girlfriend who has a pet pig, but it's inside, I don't think it really impedes on anybody else.
Well, I think what the
Right.
Not to belabor the defecation point any further, but I think what that's trying to say is clean up the feces you have in the front of your yard if your dog goes there, not confine your dog to the rear of your yard.
And part of
As a
It is.
standalone sentence,
And that's what
It's
I was saying
weird.
earlier.
It
Yeah,
is,
if
but it
that's
needs to
what
be
it-
connected.
And honestly, it should be in general. It doesn't matter if it's in the front of your yard or the back of your yard. If you have an excessive amount, it's gonna be a
Right.
smell issue.
Okay, so somebody tethers their dog in the front yard, walks away, the dog breaks loose from the tether and gets somebody.
No, I get that
that
point.
can happen.
Well, if you're gonna have that in the backyard,
Yeah,
We've
if
had
they don't
that.
have a fence, that's a possibility either way.
Okay, well, again, you guys, you got good points, we can work on this, and we can bring it back next month. Shoot me your, but I'm gonna find that language that within the Macomb County ordinance, I didn't change that. So, I'll shoot it to you. Okay.
I would say it's a great ordinance, and I'm 100% in support of it, maybe
Yeah.
just with that tweak or something.
Yeah, I know in the past that code enforcement has been trying to utilize the animal ordinance for other purposes, and it was difficult. So I do agree with updating it.
Okay, well, we can tweak it. Do I have a motion to table it for next month?
So move.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's bring it in. Now, we have the Yo and Yo contract in front of us. Now, I talked to Michael Roca and expressed our concerns, or my concern, about what amounts to just about a 20 to 25% increase in their fees. And he explained, and I think we're all aware of it, the cost of everything has gone up, trying to retain personnel. They're running short-staffed as it is. So that's why he explained, he said he promised he wasn't trying to he wasn't trying to gouge us, but a 20 to 25% increase is substantial. So my question to you is, considering the long history we had with Yo and Yo and how they straightened out so many issues that we had prior to everything staying smooth and on course, we do like Yo and Yo, but at this price point, do we want to post an RFP for accounting services?
I think RFPs are a healthy thing, even if we do have a good relationship, it lets you have a bearing on where you're at for the price point.
I don't know, I think I'd go, I don't know if I'd agree. Do you really want to switch after the years it took to get where we're at?
RFP doesn't mean you'll switch, it just knows where they compare with other people.
So I guess if they intend to go back and debate with them on their costs, but there's a lot of risk associated with a switch, right? So
Well, but I think the years that it took to get to here was because of bad past paperwork and housekeeping, right? Now we're at the point where the housekeeping is in order. So in theory, at least, now that we have everything in order, is it as complicated for another audit company to come in? I don't know. Maybe not, maybe it is.
Yo and Yo has some upcoming jobs, tasks that they're doing for us. That's why I asked him to give us a 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year quote. What were some of the things Mike said that he had to, that's going to be addressed in the next month or so?
Well, right now, one of the things that he does do for us is our I would call it asset management, but is our depreciation schedule. He takes care of that. He also be a good tool for our capital improvement plan. They were doing they do an audit on our bonds to make sure that we have them in correctly and stuff like that. What else?
He said something was coming up in the next month, month and a half.
Audits coming up in a month and a half.
Yeah,
I already have it
audits, yeah.
scheduled. My problem is right now is we don't have a contract with them. I have a deadline to get my budget in audit and sent to the state by September 30th. With this RFP, I don't think that we can make that deadline. So my recommendation, at least keep the 1 year contract and go for an RFP after that.
What is our current contract pricing?
Our current contract was altogether was 22.5. It was
22.5 a year.
to 25.
So by going
Yeah, that's
with
a
1 year, we're only
And do an
increasing
RFP
by
after
3.
that. That's my recommendation. will not make the deadline if we go for RFP right now.
I would almost say let's go 3 years.
Me too, I do Mr. Colley, when you have them, they know
I'm
they're
just-
familiar with us. I didn't.
Coming in and doing a set of books from scratch and going through all those audits and stuff, that's,
It's a nightmare.
and I'm just, you're gonna have overtime and a lot of stuff, so I'm not, I get the RFP and being, you know, smart with money, but that's a small increase, and I think there's a lot of risk, and personally, it's a lot to go through. I wouldn't want to start it all over.
How big did you say the increase was?
It was 4,000 from, it was 4,000 plus, almost 5,000 from the base quote that he gave us. He's done separately invoiced duties for us, that brings it up to about 22. But the base, and that's what that quote is, the base services, the price has gone up.
So what is this number I'm looking at? Is this still a base?
That's the base number for $25,000 for the 1-year contract.
Yeah, and the base was just slightly below 20,000.
And with, I'm sorry, with
No, no,
the
no, go ahead.
appreciation schedule and stuff like that, I have, it's set up already, so they didn't charge us last year for that, either, that's $1,000. So, and I have all the information for them, all they have to do is plug it in and stuff like that, so they're not doing any legwork to get that information now. So, we are making strides in our departments to, have the information available on BSNA. So we're starting to scan stuff, put that information there, so when they come in here, they will have read only. That'll cut down the audit process too. So that's one of the things I'm gonna start with first. So we are putting stuff in place to hopefully get this number down too for our audits and stuff like that.
I just offer another little, I guess, a weird perspective on a 3-year contract versus a one would be, there's an election cycle coming up, and you don't know how that materializes out, and you want to set, you know, any changes from this body, you want to set them up for success, not, hey, that just expired, and now guess what, you got to go figure all that out, right? So I don't know, you know, I just offer that perspective as well.
And Michael's been giving us some wisdom free of charge on our funds, how to report them, what some of the parameters are, because that's a unicorn, that's a one-off with that money. Not a lot of people know the reporting requirements and where the money's going to be put into the budget. And Michael's been really good. He's been a valuable resource on that as well.
But just from a practical standpoint, yeah, we do have to have something in place now, but I do believe an RFP in the future should be something, because, you know, I'll use an extreme example. I mean, this is 20, but if the standard is 5,000, we're way overpaying, and even if we have to start from, starting from scratch is their problem, but, you know, they'll still get the audit done, but.
Do you really think that it's even feasible that it could be that extreme?
No, but I don't know.
We might
That's
say
why we
we
have
have
RFPs, because I don't know what that number is in reference to.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a higher figure like what we're paying for that one CPA, I could see that definitely wanting to RFP it. I mean, if we were to go with a 3-year contract, we could always set it up that we then know 3 years from now, we're putting it to RFP.
Well, and I think that to add to that, the practice would be at this halfway mark, we start,
Right. You actually have a schedule that you know you're going to be,
right, not wait until
where we're against
your mark.
Yeah, we were kind of blindsided by the figure because you expect an incremental increase, but factoring in how the economy is and the challenges getting people to work, and just the overhead, they're paying for a brick and mortar store with utilities. We all know how that's gone up. So, when he said he was not price gouging, I believed him. So, what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we engage in a 3-year contract with Yo.
Support.
Can the roll go?
Trustee Colley?
Yes.
Trustee Bonkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Ballender?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
Trustee Myson?
yes.
Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
And President Craig?
Yes.
I so thank you.
If we would just make a note.
I bet you do.
Right?
Yes, that's it. Sandy, can you notify him in the morning? Sandy,
Oh, what? I'm
can
sorry.
you notify him in the morning?
Huh?
Notify him?
I will. Like right now.
Somebody's got to sign.
It's gonna call you at home, you're on the hook, don't go anywhere.
Okay, in front of you, you have the invoice for Camp Tour, our annual fireworks display, and I just got a phone call from Anthony Reeder. Lennox Township has agreed to split the cost with us. So we will be paying $10,000 for the fireworks display this year.
We would only have to approve half of that, though. It's 5,000 for us, 5,000 for them.
Yep. So,
Date changed.
what?
Date changed from July 8th to July 15th.
Oh, yeah, we had to move the date 1 week later because we couldn't get the stage. So our fireworks display, Red Hot Blue Festival will be July 15th.
Friday, July 15th.
Yes. So do I have a motion?
The contract says 2/18, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
The contract is July
I mean,
8th.
July 8th.
So in the motion, it's July
Okay,
15th.
I thought maybe she was saying that the contract was taken in the first place. Okay, that's fine.
I make a motion that we approve the payment of $5,000 towards the firework display show for July 15th, 2022.
Support.
Roll call?
Do I have the company in the motion?
What's that?
Do I have the company in the motion?
Yes, to Camp Tour LLC.
And who supported?
Support.
Roll call?
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Cowley?
Yes.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Bankowski?
Yes.
President Carpenter?
Yes. Fire Department graphics, as you're aware, we got a new piece of fire apparatus and we needed graphics on it. You have a quote in front of you for Magic Graphics in the amount of $4,110. And Chief Steers said they have money in the budget. So we're looking for approval to have the graphics installed on the fire apparatus.
I make a motion that we grant approval for the Magic Graphics invoice for $4,110 for graphics for new fire department vehicle.
Support.
Roll call?
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Foley?
Yes.
Trustee Bankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Cowley?
Yes.
And President Carpenter?
Yes. All right, code enforcement application. Clerk, what's that? We have someone in?
We had the gentleman that appeared last month, and we had 3. I know, Porter Tony Miller is here. If not, he's this gentleman right here.
Hi. Introduce yourself.
What's that?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, my name's Porter Miller. I live in Chesterfield.
And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've been a car guy all my life, and I've been working on cars all my life. I want to get into something where it's not so, as I get older, and I want to kind of relax. And that's about all.
Anyone have any questions?
What made you interested in applying for the code enforcement officer position specifically?
I grew up here. I know a lot of people here, and my kids go to school here at American Academy, and I like the town.
Anyone else have any other questions?
Have you been in contact with the previous code enforcement officer to kind of get an idea of what it is he was doing, where direction he was going in?
No, sir, I haven't.
You do have kind of a basic understanding of what the job entails? Not for everybody.
To be honest with you, no, I don't.
Okay.
I've just been told by a few people that live here, that are good friends of mine, that that's a job that I don't want to do, because I like to drive and I like to keep things in place.
That's great. Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you for applying.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And do we have any other applicants here that would like to present to council?
Hello, I'm Jimmy Ingersoll. I work for Macomb County Department of Roads. I worked for Valley for several years. I know the area very well. I work right here in New Haven, Department of Roads. I do know what the job entails. I have actually a friend that's in Traverse City that's a code enforcement officer. So I asked him about it when I seen the job application. So something I was looking into.
You have the privilege of, you already heard all our questions, so you already answered.
Good plan.
Do you have any questions? Or? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
We've been very fortunate to have so many people put in for the code enforcement position, and I thank everyone that did. So we have Mr. Gralsick that presented it last month, and we have Mr. Ingersoll, and we have Mr. I don't know his name, Ron Porter?
No.
Close.
Porter, Porter is the first name.
Okay. Well, Porter. That's okay. So we do have 3 individuals that are applying for the position. Anyone have any thoughts, questions, concerns?
So we had a 4th, but he didn't come.
Right.
He was here last month.
No,
there was a 4th one.
We got 4 applicants.
I know one of the things that was brought up just by a resident, it was, one comment from a resident was wondering if we wanted to restrict it to only being one code enforcement officer, if we didn't want to, because we do have the opportunity here that we have multiple people that are interested. I know it's something that we really didn't talk about or think about, but maybe just something to keep in the back of mind.
What is everyone's thoughts on it?
What do you mean, hiring 2, or
Right.
like we were talking about a backup for the?
Right, because originally we were talking about having 2.
Right.
We were talking about having Dan and a second person. Now, admittedly, under that agreement, it was that Dan was eventually going to step back, and that person would take over full time. But we have 3 individuals that are 4 total that are interested. And
Well, I think we would have to look at the price point. If we had 2, that might mean we not pay one individual $750, which is what the job was posted.
well, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, workload would be in that too, right?
So, what is your pleasure, ladies and gentlemen? We should make an appointment because spring is coming, and we already have 2 individuals that have decided, since we don't have a code enforcement officer, they don't have to abide by the rules, so.
So is this person going to work directly with you on a much closer basis than us?
Yeah.
Do you have a recommendation to the council on a preference?
No, I really can't make a choice on this. But we do have Mark Baralsick presented. Mark was works for the Troy Police Department in their communications section, lives in Meadow Creek subdivision. He has been in contact with Dan, and Dan was willing to help him out, kind of coach him into the thoughts and process. But I think Dan would offer that service to anybody that would choose, because Dan's a good guy. So we have a gentleman that, can you come back up here? I forgot to ask you, are you currently employed?
No.
Okay, and you worked in the car?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. So we have 3 great applicants here. And a choice today doesn't mean that later on we can't visit the idea of a backup code enforcement officer. If you decide that's the way you want to move forward, then we can discuss that position, and then we've got applicants that we can approach about that. So,
Yeah, I mean, I like that idea just because, I know, we know Dan was putting in a lot of hours.
Yeah, we got that.
And there's the potential here for a lot of hours.
Yes.
So, there's a lot of things that we want to see improved in the village.
Okay. So we have a gentleman that is looking to get away from the car industry. We have a gentleman here that works for Macomb County Roads and works for Ballard. And we have a gentleman that works for the Troy Police Department and works in communications. So, do we have, would someone like to make a motion?
Which one's the one that just came up, who doesn't have a job right now, or is retired, whatnot, the car?
That was,
What's his
His
name?
name is Gordon.
Okay.
she just wanted your name again.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony is the nickname.
Tony, right?
Tony.
Yes, Tony.
Say Tony.
I'll make a motion that we, to nominate Mark Wolchek to the code enforcement officer position.
He's the,
Middle Creek.
so he's a resident in New Haven.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Do we have support?
Trustee Proposal.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, gentlemen, we want you to know we are going to be looking into a second position, so we'd like to retain your name, and if we do develop a second position, we'd like to be able to contact you, if that's okay. All right, thank you. Thanks for coming in. Okay, RFP for grant writing services. Like we said, how many applications did we get?
Just the one that was included in the packet.
Okay. Did everyone get a chance to review that application? I think they were based out of New York. And if we looked at, I think it was page 7, at their pay scale, I think it's out of elite. It was thousands to write the grant. Was it page 7? Where they had their, it was towards the end, you saw their pay scale.
Fee schedule is on page 8.
Yeah, page 8, I'm sorry.
It's the next page, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how they call it flat fee and then have a price range.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. And everyone had a chance to review the RFP? And your thoughts?
I think when it comes to big grants, let's say, for example, we were gonna, I don't know, build something, and there's grants out there. I think on those specific things that often we do need to have a grant writer to come in, because that's, our staff does a lot of other things, and you do need that expertise. So I'm just kind of wondering if,
Well, but to that point, and you're right, we were, as you were all aware, in conversation with Diane Banks with Advancing Macomb. That is a 501c3. And with Diane, it would be a simple memo of understanding per grant. If we did get the grant, it's a 3%. We're not paying $8,000 to contract with them. We're not paying, ahead. So there is that avenue. And I applied to the National League of Cities Grant Navigation Program. It's a pretty strong program. What they do is if you were allowed to come onto their list, they would be able to look for grants for you that would be tailored for you. They would walk you through the grant writing process. I put in an application for the village, and they contacted me and said, well, right now we're only taking applications from cities with population 10,000 or more. He said, but if we decide we can delve a little bit deeper, a little bit lower in population, you're at the top of the list. Well, I got notified just today, we made the list. So we are going to be able to enjoy the benefits of the National League of Cities Grant Navigation Program as well. So right now we have Diane Banks, which is a possibility, and the Grant Navigation Program, where they're able to help us navigate this murky waters of grant writing. And I have an appointment with Stephanie Burgess up at the county in May. And even though we don't really qualify for a lot of the CDBG grants, they got to name that somehow, it's hard to say. Even though now with our population, the expansion, and we don't have qualified census tracts anymore, but she said that there are some other grants that now we might be able to benefit from. She's going to sit down with me in May. We're going to go over some of the programs that just became available and that we might still qualify for, so that we will be able to get our foot in the door with the county as well. So we do have other avenues of getting grants available to us. But we did get that one RFP. So, thoughts?
I think the two avenues you have put together or are working towards right now sound good.
Okay. So I think we should make a motion if we do want to go with Diane Banks and advancing Macomb, just to make it official. She's waiting for word from the council if you guys want to move forward, and she's also looking for information from our master plan. She's looking for population, the official population number, and so she's waiting on that information once council approves moving forward with advancing Macomb. So if we would like to use her services, again, it's just a simple memo of understanding per grant at 3%.
Do we have that in writing?
Yeah, no, we don't have it in writing, but I can certainly have her. It was such a simple, our conversation, and Chief Steer and I sat in on it. It's such a simple formula. It's just 3% on a memo of understanding. And certainly we can approve moving forward with it with the condition of, yeah. But they've helped Mount Clemens with all three of their parks. They're currently working with 2 communities in St. Clair County. So they do have some grants under the belt. She knows the process and the procedures, and she knows what to look for. And she knows that not all grants fit all communities. So she wouldn't be saying, hey, this is great, let's apply for this. She doesn't get paid until we get the grant, and she looks for grants that are tailored to our community and our needs. So.
Now, I know in the past we had talked about, there was discussion about having like a grant bonus program where if you drafted as a council person, you drafted a grant, it gets awarded, you get some sort of bonus. And I remember we really shied away from that because we had an understanding that there was, that was actually really viewed negatively.
Yeah, you can be denied grants if you state the intention of awarding that money to someone else.
So now, but is it viewed differently though, with her saying that it's a 3% fee?
No, because we paid 3% fee from the general fund.
Okay.
It's not grant money.
Right. Well, the bonus would have been.
Yeah, it would, huh?
If there was like some sort of bonus in the award, that would have been general fund too. So I just want to make sure that, I just want to make sure that by going this route that we're not shooting ourselves in the foot with getting awarded grants.
Well, I think she would have access to more grants, and to be honest with you, I've written and applied for grants. I've gotten 2 of them so far. I'm not looking to get paid for it.
Right. That's yeah. I'm not saying that I want the bonus program. I'm saying I know that we shied away from the bonus program because we were worried that it could jeopardize us getting grants. I just want to make sure that this also wouldn't jeopardize us.
Oh, no, not at all, not at all. And she has the research ability to look for these grants. I mean, that's what she does. So, engaging her just makes a little more sense.
I think it's no different than the fee schedule, Brian.
Okay.
So do we want to move forward with advancing Macomb contingent on a written statement of the service she provides?
So moved. Not to exceed 3%.
Yeah.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And I will get that from Diane. Capital improvement plan. Okay, we have to write a capital improvement plan. We don't have one, and state law says we're supposed to have one, which would span a 6-year arc on pre-funding projects.
What it does is lend more financial stability to the municipality, and you don't have to rush around and look at your bank account to make sure you can pay for something. So I have reached out to our Parks and Rec, our Planning Committee, and to the supervisors that we have in the village. And I got volunteers, and I want to thank Mr. Dilber for stepping forward. He's going to be on our Capital Improvement Committee. You are, aren't you? Okay, you kind of look like you don't
You look unsure for a minute.
Yeah, you look unsure for a hot minute.
He volunteered.
Mark Asher from our Parks and Rec Committee will be on there, as well as we're getting information from the fire chief, we're getting information from our DPW supervisor, and I will be part of that committee. Now, I've already reached out to Parks and Rec and planning to put this as an item on their agenda. And what we're looking for are capital improvement projects over $25,000 that we should include in this plan. This plan will include everything from equipment to infrastructure to parks improvement, renovations on buildings, if we have buildings that have to be renovated. So we're going to be getting, I'll be sending an outline and a wish list to each committee, both planning and Parks and Rec, about what they think should be on this list. Planning would include anything on the master plan that would be coming up in the next 5 years. Park improvements again. DPW, it'll be roads, sidewalks. We'll be using the Pazer map to estimate which streets might have to be replaced in that 6-year span. And fire department is going to be equipment. DPW again is going to be on building repairs that we anticipate. We just paid a hefty chunk to repair the heating units here in our community center. So we're getting that in place. The plan is in motion. And once we get all of the information from all of the entities in the village, the Capital Improvement Committee, I think we could it'll be one meeting where we just craft the plan. As I get the information, I'll be forwarding to you guys for review. And we'll be able to get the Capital Improvement Plan in place. Again, the state mandates that plan, and it has to be, I thought it was 5 years, but it is each 6-year plan.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah, I was going to say the letters like that.
Yeah, and Trustee Meissen volunteered as well. So we'll be getting all the pieces of the puzzles together, and then the Capital Improvement Committee will sit down and we'll craft the plan and we'll submit it to the state. Once we have it submitted to the state, along with our master plan and our Parks and Recs plan that we're moving on, it's going to open the door for more funding. So thank you to everybody that stepped up, and we're working on that right now. Okay, item D, the survey that we put out on SurveyMonkey to the residents about what they would like to see done with our the ARP money we got from Washington, D.C. We put out 5 questions on the questionnaire. We narrowed it down because if you just ask people, what do you want to see, it would range everywhere from one suggestion we had was a beer garden. I mean, maybe not a bad idea, I don't know. But we narrowed it down to things that were allowed. What?
It's green space.
It is green space, yes, it is green space. But we put it down there, again, the ARP funds, the Treasury Department has issued guidelines, and they're only allowing certain things the money to be used for. So we narrowed down our survey to 5 allowable expenses. Okay. We asked the residents, would you like sidewalk replacement, park and green space improvements, fire department and DPW equipment, which is now allowed, that's new in the latest determination, a community center, or internet access, or more broadband access. The results were I pretty much expect them to go that way. Almost 61% of the residents responded they would like to see improvements in our parks and green spaces, followed by
That's not nice jiggling up there, too much air.
maybe we can get that fixed with the money. 46% said fire department DPW equipment, 38% sidewalk replacement and repair, community center improvements at 31%,
and internet access or digital literacy assistance at 8%. And some of the, we left the comment section open on the survey, and it gave us a real window into some of the thoughts of some of the residents. One resident said, we didn't know we had a community center. That's a different issue. But some of the comments that were made were play areas for children, sports field updates for kids, and a larger park for equipment. And then refurbishing downtown New Haven and its surrounding areas. Speed radar in the subdivision, that's really not allowed. Additions and updates to New Haven Community Park, dog park. Another one said playground equipment, no dog park. And the recommendation was made to divide the funds between several improvement projects instead of just one. So over and over again, people are telling us they want to see the improvements come to the community. A lot of them mentioned parks, on how their parks in yellow. One resident said splash pad, park, picnic areas, play structure, and barbecue pits. More community events, accessible equipment, repaving of roads. This gave us a snapshot of improvements we can do outside of the ARP funds, what they'd like to see done with just money from the general fund. So I thought this was a good idea to enable the comments. And again, the beer park was in the beer garden was in the comments.
It was also obvious the timing of the survey coincided with the railroad being blocked in the village.
Oh, yes.
You can't afford a bridge, is that what you're saying?
No, I can't afford a bridge. A left turn right at 26 New Haven Road, and as you're all aware, I just forwarded you an email from MDOT. I'm staying on top of it. And they've completed one survey, and they're doing a follow-up to it, so we're staying on it, because we need to lighten that intersection. But more music in the park events. That's something certainly our Park and Recs can look at. And the fire department and DPW does a lot for our community. They deserve more equipment. So this gives us an idea of some of the stuff we can do beyond the ARP funds. We're getting $257,000 this year. We've already received the funding, and we are getting another $257,000 next year. We have to dedicate these funds and let the Treasury Department know what we're using the funds for by April 30th. They have some very strict reporting guidelines, and we're staying on top of all of them because we want the money. So, I think we need to decide first, would we like to split the money between a couple of different projects that are allowed by the Treasury Department? And what projects would you like to see funded?
I'd like to see parking improved at our park, the one we have today. I think that a lot more people would use it. Some great events down there. I enjoy going to them. I'm so glad I can still illegally take my golf cart to them. I'm just saying.
Haven Ridge Park or Fountain Park?
Pardon?
Haven Ridge Park or Fountain Park?
Haven Ridge Park, yeah. So that's, we're parking all on the grass up inside. So and that's a substantial, I'm sure there's substantial cost to improving that. And I also wonder about, we rent a stage. Is there ability to put a stage in there and run power to it?
Well, if the money was used to purchase land to designate for park space, would that qualify?
No. No, nothing for pension debt. We cannot pave roads with it. We do sidewalks. We can't pave roads.
We can't lower everybody's house payment like that?
Somebody suggested lowering house payments. I wish we could.
So, can you do the parking lot?
Yeah, can we do it?
Well, if we do park renovations.
If it's park renovation, yeah.
Yeah, we can do a park renovation. And because so many people are interested in renovating the parks, making them ADA compliant, which it is not, would be a real bonus. With, the amount of money that we're getting, and if we can get matching funds, we could do a substantial renovation to the park. I know I'm tired of paying $2,000 for that trailer for music in the park. Right. That's expensive. So I think there were two clear winners in the survey. Park and green space improvement and fire department DPW purchase and replacement. I have already, we've already done some improvements to the DPW building. We got a gator for DPW. Supervisor Gilbert is getting a quote on a DPW truck for the capital improvement program. So some of these issues have been addressed or are currently being addressed. Hold on one second. I did get additional micro grant again for Fountain Park. We're going to be doing more stuff in Fountain Park too, just to let you know.
When do we have to spend it by? I know we have to tell them.
You have to dedicate it by April 30th. You must spend it in 2 years. So 2 years from 2024 for this year's tranche, and then 2025 for next year's tranche.
Could I ask, one of the comments, and I was talking about, that must have been from somebody on the fire department, I would assume, or somebody related, but talks about the updated radios for the fire department, training facility for the fire department to simulate live burns. But it says, and it's all in caps, so that's why it stuck out to me, new fire hose. Is there any possibility that, was that could that be a typo, or is our fire hose outdated, or?
Our fire hose is fine, we just bought new fire radios. I don't think that was a member of the department.
Okay.
Not a current.
I didn't know if maybe it was a typo, like new firehouse, you know, like maybe one on the other side of the track so that we don't get blocked all the time.
The beer garden came from the fire department.
No, we've been keeping up on a lot of the internet access. We put free Wi-Fi in both parks.
Yeah.
And I reached out to the school and we dropped off some information for a program that would, through Comcast, that low income, if you met an income threshold, you could get internet at a very much reduced cost. And we didn't get a lot of interest in that. So I tend to think people were lucky enough to have, a lot of our residents do have the internet that they need. But we didn't get any feedback on that.
I think Cody beat you to it.
Yeah, I think,
the school advertises that every month.
Yeah, the speed radar and the subdivisions, that's out of our control. We don't have, we have to contact the sheriff's department. We have been beating them up about more speeding enforcement. Funding for families and businesses, that is not an allowable expense. There was funding available for small businesses that would have to provide documentation how they were impacted by COVID. And then they withdrew that as an allowable expense. You had to claim it as unrealized losses. The language is you're falling down a rabbit hole with these things. But that is an option. We could reach out to some of our businesses and say, can you document a substantial loss of revenue due to COVID? That is an option that we could also do just as a council. But this, I wanted the residents to have these 5 options to choose from. But that is one other option. That was, I think, the only other option that was available.
Well, that's where I guess I was, I was confused early on about this, because I thought if we did go that route, then it kind of frees us up with what we could utilize the funds for, right? If we did it as a substantial revenue loss, doesn't that?
Oh, no. We are able to claim it as a substantial revenue loss to enable us to keep the money and disseminate it, but you still have to report what you're using it for, even if you claim it as unrealized losses. But we do have the option of approaching businesses in our community and saying, did you suffer, can you document a substantial loss of funding? And we would be able to assign some funds to them to make up for the loss. Now, I did talk to a young lady down in Sterling Heights, Clinton Township. They lost, their businesses, according to their estimate, they lost $2 million in revenue. Their businesses did during COVID. So I think they're getting a much larger amount of money, and I think they're working with some of their businesses on letting them recapture some of the losses. So, but a community our size, I don't know. It's a lengthy process. They'd have to document it. We'd have to submit it to the feds. They would have to approve it. And again, we still have to document everything. So.
Well, I think we need to keep in perspective that, I mean, although it sounds like a lot of money, it will be spent very quickly.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm not opposed to just saying we just dedicate it all to, you know, let's say Haven Ridge Park.
Well, I like the idea of dedicating it to the Parks and Green Space, but I actually was gonna bring up, you know, we do have, Trustee Bellinger, clued me in on, you know, we have a PDF file of all the village-owned properties. And I actually took the time to go through parcel by parcel, through Parcel Explorer. It's quite a task because
31 properties.
we have, you know, we have Haven Place Park, that's technically like 3 or 4 parcels. We have Fountain Park, that's 3 or 4 parcels.
And we have easements.
Yeah, and then we have the
little
easements.
spots, yeah.
But there were a couple of properties that I think are prime for us to do something with.
Okay.
There's the open lot that's right next door to the food pantry with the concrete parking area that's directly across the street. It's not a huge lot, but, you know, could we put a playscape in? Can we put something in that would give, you know, all residents in the area somewhere to go and, you know, maybe we put the barbecue pits in there or something, you know, a lot of residents would be able to just walk right there. There was also the parcels, 3 parcels that are all at Haven Ridge and Division. And I think it might have used to be...
Community garden.
Yeah, it was a garden.
Community garden.
You know, just, those are small areas that I think, you know, if we just focused and put some, you know, did something there, we could probably get a lot out of it for lower cost and then maybe, you know, devote the rest to Haven Ridge Park. Or other improvements, but, you know, it was just, it was eye-opening to me at least to see that we had these two lots that prime area for park or green space or something, and we're just not utilizing them right now.
Yeah, when I talked to the gentleman about the parking lot next to the restaurant, I told him we want to reserve one little corner of that parking lot as a little green spot, so that the residents go by, they just don't see cars, they see, you know, landscaping. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think we have some unrealized property here, and we can use these funds and next year's funds. We're talking $500,000. But what we would have to do, if we do decide to dedicate that money, we're going to have to figure out where we're going to put it and submit it to the feds by April 30th. Okay? And I can be, if we make that determination, we want to use it only for parks and green spaces. We just bought a piece of fire equipment, and part of the close runner-up was fire department DPW equipment. I would like to use $30,000 of the money each year to help pay for that, because that is an allowable expense. It'll alleviate the pressure off the village, and we do have it on a finance plan. So I would like to take, and since it was the next runner-up, I'd like to be able to do that if we could.
So you need a motion tonight, or I think you said till April 30th.
Yeah, we have it till April 30th, so I just wanted to get your feel for it. But at the April meeting, we will be buttoning down what we want to spend it for. I'm going to talk to Mark Hashik. I think our druthers is the park improvements. I'll talk to Parks and Rec, and we'll work with them. And
you can get them to make a list of what they think they're closer to the community from an outreach perspective, probably.
And plus they deal with the park with the events and what they would like to see.
I think that's the stage though. Like, why are you paying like someone else for that and you can?
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
And then we wouldn't have to worry about our dates of events.
Yeah,
The reality is,
Because that's
you
what
go,
we're geared towards.
I mean, you could actually potentially put a stage at each location, right? Because if you're gonna put up a permanent structure and just make it weatherproof, right? So your most cost, or the state cost, is gonna be running electrical to it, right? But
the nice part,
you can do a lot of bang for your buck with that money.
How much does the stage cost?
Well, I'm just thinking about a lean-to type stage that's a permanent structure. It'll have to be maintained, obviously, but.
But then we can't move it between, like, we've done it at the high school, we've done it at even Ridge Park.
Well,
that's what
believe
we
me,
were
if that
talking
means we're
about
saving
when,
2,000 a pop, we'll adjust our plans.
Yeah, no, I guess you could buy a piece of equipment instead.
But-
It's just a pull behind.
Well, the stage that they bought was over $100 million.
100 million?
$100,000.
100 million?
Yeah, you know, I feel like that's a deal. $100 million
We've been through Austin Powers. It's
I
love the gold-plated version of that.
I'm going into business making stages.
We got to feel like a trailer with $100 million.
So that's why I was pushing for yo-yo to be on contract.
Yeah, inflation's pretty great. No, it was over 100,000 for that. So and you know what, something that you have to maintain, because there's maintenance on that. Plus, if we do a permanent structure at the park, we can use it for farmers markets, we can use it for craft fairs, we can use it for, let the high school band practice there. I was also thinking of improving, we need to keep an eye on Fountain Park, because we have possibilities there. We have a business, Rose Seller just sold to a young lady that has a home decorating business, and she intends to hold DIY classes there and to have events there with food trucks. We need to develop, keep that, bring some of the vitality back to downtown. We need to do that.
If we can rent that trailer for $2,000 at a pop to other communities.
Yeah, I think we're the only suckers on the hook, I'm not sure. But if we put something like just a gazebo in Fountain Park, we could have somebody playing music there, we could have a food truck there on Friday nights, we have families go down there, put in some picnic tables. There's a lot we could do with that space. And it'll bring vitality back down to downtown. We need to do that. So, okay, so we know we're leaning towards the piece of fire equipment and parks. We're going to button it down in April after I reach out to Parks and Rec and they can give us their ideas. So, yeah, I think we've got plans in motion. Anyone have any other thoughts on that?
I'll just say that because I'm really boring, number 3 on that list is repair and replace what we have now, and I'll champion those people.
And you know what, we've been doing that though.
Yeah,
We've been fixing the community center. We've been fixing somebody else's property with the heating units. But we've made some strides. And once we get a code enforcement officer up and running, and I will reach out to Mr. Gralsik. I told him that whoever we do appoint, I want to have a meeting with him, and we're going to set a way forward for that. But any other druthers or any information on the art funds? Any other thoughts? Okay. Call from the floor.
I have a couple comments that I thought of. Brian, on your parks thing, I love the parks here. The last few years, we've actually used the parks, and it's getting better and better. But one of the flaws to doing those things that you were talking about is restrooms. You have to provide restrooms. Yeah. So don't forget that. I mean, it's a great idea. Don't let that get slipped. Yeah, but what I wanted to say was, don't forget that daylight savings time is coming. I have my personal opinions about that, but that's another thing. But the fire department wants to remind everybody when you change your clocks to change the battery in your smoke detectors. Please, please, please. Now, we do this every year, and about 1% of the people actually do it, unfortunately. But smoke detectors save lives. If nothing else, they wake you up in the middle of the night when the batteries are bad. Yeah. So don't forget to change those. And I forgot to mention that now that we have our sign, maybe we can post that. Every time you change your clocks, change batteries. Don't be cheapskate. Go over and buy a couple batteries. But other than that, I like the park idea.
Call from the floor. Yes, sir.
This time I'm not looking at it.
I know, that's enough.
I'm gonna put them on.
Oh, yes, sir.
I got a couple things. I'm gonna run through them right quick. First of all, I'm gonna inform the council that there was a second offer on 47 acres that I assume was shared with the board and maybe not. The other thing that I want to touch on is annually the county treasury department sends out a list of foreclosed properties that the village has first rights to refuse or first rights to buy. It's a golden opportunity for the village, if it's still on, and I'm sure that the old funeral home is still on, for the village to take control, even though I know that the owners have until, I think it's March 31st to redeem. But in case they don't redeem, the village can take control of that property and sell it on their own. And instead of waiting for it to come up on the next auction, which is, I think it's the second week of July. So if that opportunity does come to the village, we should give some thought to taking advantage of that. The other thing that I want to touch on is, I don't know who the president is talking to as far as animal control, but we have consistently adopted Macomb County's animal control ordinance. Every time they brought it to us, it has been adopted. So if they're saying that it hasn't been adopted, then somebody is blowing smoke, okay? And the last thing I want to touch on is that it's kind of ironic that 61% of our survey talks about park and green space. And tonight, we just gave away the largest parcel that the village owns.
Open the floor. Yes, sir.
And did you say that?
What?
You don't know. Oh, right here. Did you say road paving is not part of?
The ARP money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just allowed sidewalk.
Okay, well, just even that it's not, because the village itself, but Anvance Drive is the only street in the village of New Haven that's never been paved. It's, I mean, just the top coat is what they were asking to have done down there. And at one time, the county was going to do half, and if the village had it, I don't know whatever happened with that, but that street is the only street in the village that's not paved and very well needs to be. Okay.
Open the floor. Okay, and call from the table. I have one thing. We got a letter from the Great Lakes Water Authority, and Sandy is aware of it. The city of Highland Park hasn't paid the Great Lakes Water Authority for, is it 10 years? They are $62 million in arrears. The Great Lakes Water Authority decided to pass their debt along to the member communities. New Haven is on the hook for, I think it was $70,000. We just got updated figures from Candace Miller, because there was a sewer portion and a water portion, and I think it's around $70,000. But communities like Sterling Heights, $1.5 million. Macomb Township, $1.4 million. Great Lakes Water Authority is telling us we have to cover their debt. So they asked that we send a letter to Governor Whitmer asking her to address this issue. I sent a letter in on my behalf, saying that as the village president, we face enough challenges trying to pay our water and sewer debts, and to place this additional undue burden on us because another community isn't paying their bills is not conscionable. So that letter has been forwarded, and Candace Miller sent us all an email saying that she and Mark Hackle are getting involved in this, and they're going to be addressing this issue with the governor. I think it's patently unfair that we're expected to pick up on Highland Park's bill. I don't know how much we can do about it, but we're going to voice our displeasure over it, and Candace Miller and Mark Hackle are also addressing the issue.
That feels like a very slippery slope, because any community can just not pay the bill.
I was going to say, at that point,
I'm sure there'll be some litigation involved.
Well, I hope so, because even though it's incremental for us, it's the point. If your neighbor next door doesn't pay his mortgage, somebody's not going to do it and say, hey, you got to pay. No. That's not what we're here for. And though we certainly sympathize with Hazel Park and their financial situation, we have problems of our own. So just to let you guys know that we voiced our displeasure and that Candace Miller and Mark Hackle are getting involved, and they're going to be addressing the issue as well. Do we have an update? Okay, we did file a motion
reconsideration. As you all know, the judge decided out of the blue after a couple of years of working on this, that no, she was done. So we filed a motion for consideration. For reconsideration, the motion is still pending. And as soon as we get any additional information, you guys will all be the first ones to know at a council meeting, so everybody knows. And again, we have an option that if it is not reconsidered, we can appeal to a higher court. You all agree with that. So we are still looking for redress on this. I think it's important moving forward. We're paying $160,000 plus a year for something we don't know. So I think that was it. Any other call from the floor?
Table.
Call from the, I'm tired. I'm old. Call from the table.
I had a couple of things that I wanted to run through. Recently it was brought to my attention, something I just never really noticed, but the crosswalks in front of New Haven Elementary School are not striped. There's no signage that designates that they're crosswalks. I know last year we had talked about going around the subdivisions and painting the curbs to designate that there's no parking by the fire hydrants. I don't know if we ever went and actually got a quote for that or not. But if I'd like to also consider having the crosswalk striped at the very least around New Haven Elementary. We had an incident the other day where 2 kids were almost hit by parents that were in too much of a hurry to watch for kids. So I'd like to have that as a consideration item. Also, I was in communication with Commissioner Kraft. One, big shout out to him. He's very, very helpful with getting Macomb County Department of Roads to help us with potholes and other items. One thing though that seems to be of contention is Roselle. I don't believe that it ever got graded after we did request it. I did escalate it up to Mr. Kraft to ask for that to be escalated up. But the one thing though is that we have not had any fresh limestone on that since 2017. So I don't know if that's something that we can reach out to the township, or if we can reach out to Lennox Township and discuss about shared costs for the limestone. Last time it was only a few $1,000s. It wasn't much. And since it hasn't been done since 2017, it seems like it might be something we need to consider at the very least, with the grading that needs to be done as well.
I had a quick conversation with Anthony Reader at the Incubate Breakfast. They were talking about that project on Roselle. Have we heard anything about that?
Not officially.
Not officially, okay. They mentioned it was loud, it was crowded. They mentioned something about they were looking to get part of the paved.
Okay.
So, but we could certainly, the roads are not great shape. So.
Yeah, because I was thinking, as a stopgap, I know, we just were brought to attention about AMVETs. If we were doing limestone on Roselle, maybe we can also then take care of AMVETs. I know we'd rather get it paved.
Marcus says he's going to go get AMVETs.
Okay. Last but not least, I did escalate up about Canadian National Railroads. I did get the attention of our state representative, Mr. Yarich. He was in direct communication with Canadian National as well, letting them know that we are watching, we're paying attention. I have a spreadsheet that I've shared with Canadian National, and I'm letting them know that we are documenting every time they're blocking our railroad crossings. They, over a 3-day period, it was over 10 hours that they had the railroads blocked, or the crossings blocked. So they are aware of it. Thankfully, it seems like after the flurry of emails and communications last Wednesday that they haven't blocked as bad. I believe Main Street has still been an issue with the arms being down, but there's no train blocking the intersection. What Canadian National had asked me to do to let everybody know when the train is not present and the arms are down, to actually call the emergency number that is on the arm signage. I know that one resident did call the emergency number and they were told, well, it's not an emergency, and it was brushed off. That they told us that was not acceptable response. It is considered an emergency if there's no train there, and that they can send out the railroad police to do something with that arm to get it to go back up.
There has been a person in that little hut there often, so it does look like they're doing more. But Roselle is becoming extremely well-traveled now because it's our only way to get anywhere. It's the only way to get out of town. And then with more, New Haven's gonna be closed, at like Omo,
Yeah.
and there's other, I mean, you feel completely trapped. If the arms are down, you can't go that way. We just turn around and go back home, because you can't leave.
And the person I talked to at Stan Railroad, we were all calling and complaining, said that they were gonna try and stage the trains away from the intersections. They were gonna make more of a point trying to do that.
Yeah, because I really stressed, I mean, at the very least, if they, if they have to block an intersection, block one, don't block both.
Yeah.
We at least then can get around through.
Or if there's a
Victoria
stretch
Street.
where you could park it and you're not blocking anything.
Well,
which
yeah,
I think about it,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
That's all.
thank you. Call for the table. Do I have a motion? What?
Just what she mentioned, that New Haven Road will be closed starting tomorrow. They're putting a bridge in.
Yeah, almost.
So I don't know if everybody knows that, but yeah, you won't be able to go north. Well,
Yeah, we've been posting it on.
I'm sorry, but she made me remind, I was going to remind people of that.
And I believe 26 Mile already started, right?
Huh?
I believe 26 Mile is already under construction, right?
The ninth.
The
Yeah.
9th.
And that can't be a big bridge, right?
All right, wait, do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn at 9:37.
Properly moved and supported. All those in favor?